How does he get in trouble
Well,
with
they're
the
saying
time
that's not
needle
what
for
he
that?
was supposed to do in his actions. He was supposed to get arrested and go
Well,
back to
So
Asgard.
he didn't.
I also think a couple of videos are saying that it's specifically because he's removing an Infinity Stone from its place with no intent of bringing it back.
I love that he gets up and uses his line because that's like my favorite line from Avengers.
The first
Burden
scene.
with glorious purpose.
I just like he'll settle for any place.
He does a little Elvis swagger right there too with his hands. All right, come on.
Boy, I love
That's
that.
kind of a neat looking effect.
It's awesome looking.
They should have worked Van Damme in here somewhere. Just made him in the background as a time cop.
I think they should just have that movie poster on their wall.
Yeah, I'd take that.
Dinosaur.
Dino DNA.
Yeah, I got
Even
Dino
this is retro.
DNA.
So all the different universes share a timeline.
Yeah, because we know there's a multiverse and the timelines don't all match, but apparently there's a certain degree of variance that's allowable.
They say that Wanda was a Nexus in WandaVision. So is that what they're referencing here?
I think so, because not only do they mention the Nexus, but they also talk about the madness of the multiverse. So they're teasing
and that's
Doctor
the name of
Strange.
the Doctor
Yeah.
Strange movie.
And I love this look too. This old lo-fi like.
It looks better here when they just showed the letters with all the different
It looks
fonts.
goofy
Doesn't
as
look
hell,
good,
yeah.
but this is a nice effect. Yeah,
How do you feel about the mustache?
I like
I
it.
think it works for him.
I
He's
do
great
too,
in this.
actually. I think it does. I think I like it. Dot.
Told you they threw Dignanite on his ass.
Yeah. You know, there's nothing to steal from my mom and Craig. Well, and essentially, it's not his fault. I mean, they brought that thing to his feet, and he just picked it up. I mean, but that it's not about. That's why he says it's not necessarily about right or wrong. It's about what was supposed to happen.
They do look a little militarized, don't they?
Well, I don't even know what the
Security
trials do,
forces.
because in what case, besides one weird one like this, do they not just vaporize somebody?
Reset, yeah.
It seems to be what they always do. It's a weird thing.
I love this
freaking
whole
Loki.
this whole conversation is great.
Well, this conversation is the centerpiece of the whole. Everything else is
Yeah.
to service this. This is the actual story, and that's what I love about this episode.
I like that this is fun that they weave these movies because this is his thing in Avengers,
That's what you
Which
have to
I-
address, because
yeah.
this is right after that.
right?
So they have to sort of relitigate that to get this character to
And he
move
still
forward.
always has a good point. I still think
Yeah, but it's the classic villain thing.
Right.
I have to rule people because they can't be happy given choice. Because every villain has to believe that they don't have any choice,
Right.
because that's how they rationalize being bad. I like how a lot of this episode is just sort of indicting the script for the Avengers. It's like, I just don't see this as being in character for Loki.
I'm not sure. It's like I made a bet with Thor. It's like, what exactly? To hijack a plane?
To
That's
just
kind of a
rob,
weird bet.
steal a bunch of Earth money and jump out of a plane.
Yeah.
Like, what was the upshot of that?
This is a weird question. Is everything predetermined in the Marvel Universe
Wow.
then?
That's
By
what
their
they're-
perspective, it is.
or they're saying that the way the universe exists with them, it is sure because they're culling any other possibilities happening. You know what I mean?
Well, they're allowing for a lot of deviation, so it does seem like they're kind of hedging their bets. Well, we let that happen. So it's only very specific things that they intervene on either.
To cause
because we've
problems.
already seen Loki's story though. You've seen how he dies. And
And
stuff.
so,
I mean,
yeah, so none of that's what that Screen Crush video was about. So if he leaves, none of that happens, which means ultimately Thanos doesn't even get the Infinity Stones. Because
well, but what
that
that
one
did is
stone
create,
in
but that
Asgard
creates
and-
that creates a whole time branch that they got rid of
Yeah.
basically. So it didn't happen. That's that bomb they did at the beginning. That's what cut it off.
Although even that opens a bigger question, because certainly Thanos from certain timelines doesn't get the Infinity Stones because they killed a Thanos from another timeline.
Right.
I know
Like,
that
so they've
confused me
already
too.
made sure that event doesn't happen in every one of
Time
these
travel
timelines.
can be so messy in movies, man. He says it happens again and again as time looping.
Well, I'm sure some of these timelines, you know for a fact some of the timelines are at a different point in the time. They can skip to a different universe, and it's like 5 years in their past by
Right.
their perspective.
Well, what about the variants that are running around in actual timelines? They're not able to look into the future of that timeline and see what that variant does? Or
I guess not, because the variant is making it change.
see, yeah.
Time exists already, right? The future and the past together, so they could just look at it and go, "This is the line. Anything breaking off this line, we crush." But that means they can see that future at any moment.
If you want to get even more complex and abstract, then they already know all the actions that they take.
Why do they have Infinity Stones in their drawers?
I assume that they usually variants that they
Variants
gather
are
up
trying to get 'em.
are the ones who moved Infinity Stones out of their various
And then
timelines.
they take them into this timeline and just keep them?
Well,
Like there's more
this is
Infinity Stones there than there are Infinity
Well,
Stones.
they took that Tesseract as well because there's a billion. Remember, you can have a branch every second, and you could have 1,000 Infinity Stones.
Are they removing Infinity
Well,
Stones from those
they
timelines?
apprehended
I
him and took
assume
that as evidence.
that becomes a variant version of the Infinity Stone, and the original is part of the original timeline.
Right.
So
When they
the
restore
originals
it.
are still in the timelines. These are
Yeah.
just like
That's my assumption.
yeah,
Yeah.
Snag
this
it
is just
out
what
somehow.
they get caught with. So that's like
And so to them, this is just a shiny rock.
because they're
here.
outside the universe. The universe only the Infinity Stones were from the Big Bang, from the universe.
how
they're
can you be
created
outside
in.
of the universe? That's so weird.
Well,
to me.
imagine
They're outside
well,
of
you
space and
can't
time.
actually imagine a point of singularity, but that's what a point of singularity is. It's where you pass a point where all the laws of physics as you understand them don't exist,
See.
and that's where he is. He's like,
And
everything I know here is irrelevant.
this is great, man. Look at his acting in this thing. This is like he's incredible in this thing.
He's using his acting here for sure.
Like he's using
Act your
his
way past
acting.
those guards.
Actually, I
You
wish they
see
had
it.
just recreated every one of these scenes, but with Matt Damon as Loki.
Well, you see, they're going to be in the new one, right? That leaked footage, or where it's him and has Melissa McCarthy playing Hela.
Oh, that's so fun. And unfortunately, if you're an egomaniac, then this is the most profound thing you can see.
This is
The most humbling thing.
Well, this is what I like. This kind of weird predator stalk he has. He's walking on the screen. This is like, I like. He just doesn't understand it. I don't know.
Like, what does that feel like for her?
Who knows? You never teleported before?
You know, I haven't.
Yeah, this is like a nice little bar. This area. Look, it's like a
Yeah,
stage.
I'm
I'd hang
telling
out
you,
here.
they can have a little disco party in here.
Got that big couch in the back. Who's swanky as hell?
And what's cool about this payoff right here is it's the most he's ever opened up in any of this stuff. MCU.
I do it because
Because there's no point in hiding anymore.
Are all Asgardians gods in their own estimation?
I beg your pardon.
I don't
Not
know. They're all
technically.
badasses.
Or do you have to be royalty to be a god? I mean, how do you become a god?
It depends.
Well, it's weird.
on-
They're only gods because they came down to Earth and then Midgard called them gods, right? That's like
They had other Asgardians and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm not sure how much that counts. This is a space shovel. Doesn't belong here.
yeah, these guys aren't that. They're not tactically that smart. I think
They're not smart
They
at
just,
all.
like,
They're
not at
standing
all.
they
in
teleport into a little
gasoline
oil
and they're like,
field. Yeah.
yeah, this is weird.
But he has Loki, and he's cool with working with him, even though there is a version of Loki that is murdering all the people.
Yeah, but they
I think they
understand
know-
that there's different versions of Loki for different timelines that all seem to be part of the plan.
They could have been variants from a way younger Loki that was much more dumb and dangerous.
Well, I think if there's a female version of Loki, then there's a timeline where Loki is supposed to be female. So I think those levels of deviation aren't variants as far as the TVA are concerned.
He just grabbed
Kate Herron.
the grenade, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's
time
what
resetter.
that's what they've been taking for whatever reason. I guess that is a
So-
pretty formidable weapon if it
Yeah,
can
so he
delete an
can wipe
entire
out
timeline.
realities.
Yeah.
I am super glad that this series is bringing back a little mystery. I loved WandaVision because of the mystery, and whoever
Look at executive producer Tom Hiddleston in this one. He's getting that change.
Well, and there's such
And
a
to me,
weird
it's
world
not
to
even
play
like
with.
a-
Just like WandaVision, they have a much
to-
weirder world to play with in this. And I
Well,
like
and to me, it's like with this, it's even. I think this is more interesting even than WandaVision because that was like, what is this? What is she doing? How does she do this? With this, I don't know if there's one. I mean, we know the variant already is Loki, so I don't even have. There's no particular mystery. I just want to see more of this world and see more adventures. Like this is like Doctor Who stuff now.
I'm looking forward to the others. I just hope that it doesn't get too confusing. Of course, most people don't question it. I'm weird about these
These
things.
watch-alongs might be best for you. Of all of it, it might be good for you that we're doing these so that you get a little bit of a dialogue.
Try to sort
on the
out what's
internal
happening.
physics.
So they know that Loki's the variant, but they just can't stop him. They can't catch him.
Yeah.
Why do they show up to the field at the end there? Because there's a shovel.
I guess that's what they were able to hone in on. He put that thing there for them to find it as a deviation, but it was a trap.
And they get there, and that's why they just burn this place.
That he figured out that those sort of reset grenades is like, that's one of the best weapons in the entire universe.
You get the impression that he's traveling around. If he travels around and shows up in a place and there's enough of deviation, then they detect it. Like in France, he shows up, gives that kid gum, does whatever, and then that team shows up, he kills that team, and they're responding to the team that got killed there.
Yeah.
The only time stories that actually don't have any leakage are ones that are totally deterministic, like Terminator 1. Like that's the best one because everything happened and always happened that way. But that's not great for stories. You mean everything's gonna happen, nothing can change. So they're getting the best of both worlds. They're saying this is deterministic, but there could be variants on that certain one, on the one timeline we're trying to preserve. Basically,
that is like when you start getting into like that kind of physics that you're talking about. It's deterministic, but it accounts for choice within a certain framework. Sort of like everyone's life is anyway. Like, yes, you make your own choices, but there's plenty of things that are decided for you. You can't just do anything. You're locked into a certain framework.
It's like most video games where you have like 3 different paths to choose, but that's it. Like you can choose a path, but
that's why that
limited number of paths.
And you can choose not to move forward, but there's no value.
That's why,
but you can't break outside of those rules.
The stupidest time travel model is the one from Back to the Future and Looper in those movies where like you change, you get a scar here, and it's like that's pretty goofy.
There's even dumber, I swear, because I can take.
But I love those movies.
I can take the whole single timeline idea of Back to the Future says that if I change the past, then my present immediately gets overwritten and whatever, and we have a mechanics to follow that.
But then they break that with the alternate thing though in the second one. So you're like, well, hold on. It's like now you have variants in that too. Like it's when you start trying. You can either do either model. You can do there's a billion possibilities, or determine, or it's all a singular thing. But when they do
that is true in a purest sense. They should have disappeared because they would have been erased.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think these stories, these stories can't do that because they don't want to have everything be deterministic. They want there to be like some sort of the various wild cards.
You want it to have internal logic that makes sense. Like the dumbest time travel ones are where they come up like Time Cop, where they say you can't go back in the past and touch yourself because 2 things can't exist in the same space. And you're like, well, wait a minute. The physics of that. Well, but that's a joke.
But then they do.
It turns out to be a true. He's like, what if they saw each other and the whole of the universe could blow up and like nothing.
You gotta do something about your kids, Marty.
Yeah, Marty. But in Time Cop, if I just went back in time and I touched the other me, we would just blow up. It's like, okay, that misunderstands physics on a fundamental level. Forget time travel. If I, first of all, 2 things that are touching aren't sharing the same space. So even if we're not 2 variants of the same person, if as much as we touch, we are still existing in our own personal space. That doesn't change anything. And second, you lose cells how often? Like if you came back 5 years from now and touched yourself, that wouldn't be the same matter.
Well, I'm not a physicist, but you can't even introduce new energy, right? All energy that exists now, either in matter or energy, right? So if you like intersect into a new universe and appear there, your new matter, your new energy that wasn't existent at the Big Bang, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that would make more sense. That would be the paradoxical event. It wouldn't matter where your other self was. You would be the anomaly.
But again, if the time is we experience it linearly. If time exists, then all those branches have already existed, and that energy was already there from the end. We knew how much energy was going to be there. Does that make sense? So,
well, it
like-
depends. But the Big Bang and time didn't actually exist until the Big Bang happened. Anyway.
Well, time and space are linked. They're the same.
We're all looking off in the different
Well,
directions.
the thing is, like, we talked about
Hold
point of
on.
singularity.
Some
again.
things are,
The point
and
of
some things
singularity
aren't.
is like there isn't a before the Big Bang because before didn't exist at that point. Time didn't exist at that point. When the Big Bang
Right.
happened, time and space are one. So time and space expanded from that point. So technically, by way we understand it, there would be a point before that, but there couldn't be because the concept of before didn't exist until that event.
Right.
That's the point of singularity. Something happens there, but we can't understand it because the laws of time and space as we currently understand them didn't exist at all. So there's no perception. It's sort of like that's God because it's a transcendent concept that we can't understand in terms of the universe as we know it. But it exists. We just don't have a framework for understanding the nature of that existence.
Endgame bothered me because Thanos,
Marvel, not a fan.
the past
Yeah.
Thanos, comes
Hot take.
to our present, and when he does, he dies. So he doesn't.
Yeah.
He does not return back to the past, which means he never gets.
Well, he's not. He's
But he's not from our timeline.
He's a
That's what
different
we were
time stream.
saying.
The
What
moment
that
they
would
go back
create
and
is
So the
that would create
timeline they're in now, which was created because of Thanos, now exists in a past where Thanos never existed. Does that make
now, well, who were in that timeline? That was
again. I feel like we need to have a chalkboard.
But hold on.
like
hold on.
we're on this timeline right here. This Thanos has already done his thing. We killed this Thanos. That's all happened. This other Thanos comes from this timeline. When we're trying to travel back in time, or he travels forward to our time, this is the Thanos that's coming
so
over.
they don't
This
travel
is the
back
timeline.
to. We're not traveling back to our timeline when we
Never.
get the stones.
Not once ever. No.
No.
We are traveling
Every
to
time-
alternate
every time-
timelines. When we
yeah,
time
every
travel,
time-
we're traveling to a different timeline.
Time
That's a
stream,
whole different universe. So
Every
we're
time
changing
somebody-
the course of that universe because that Thanos is dead. They don't have the snap in that universe because we just killed that Thanos
So
and his entire
they
army.
went back to a different universe and grabbed their Infinity Stones.
Yes.
Yes, that's
And
why they
then
had to
Put
return
them
to that
back
universe.
into yet a third universe when they
No,
would
no, no.
travel
into the
back
same-
to put the.
They take them back into the same place they found.
The
That's the whole
concept that
point.
the ancient one tells them is that once you bring them back, that timeline merges into the main timeline again. So there's no more
Yeah.
stream anymore.
That's where it
There's
starts
no
to
more-
get kind of fuzzy. But the
yeah,
idea
that
is
gets weird.
you have to restore those Infinity Stones to the timeline they came from, or it creates all these parallels that are sort of what the TVA is designed to fit.
And the way that Endgame kind of posits it is that the only thing big enough to create variants are Infinity Stones.
I think it works best that no one has a firm grasp of it because then you can just leave it. It's like, all right, just nobody understands this stuff.
Well, that's why. But
fine.
that's why I think the way they did it in game is sort of interesting because it's like there's just time streams, and you just kill it, and it's not there anymore.
Yeah,
and then
I
we're
mean, you
fine.
can't.
we can assume that Captain America sorted it. Whatever he did, he sorted that out on his own. That he's not
There's
getting a
a
different
balance.
TV show to explain it, but it happened.
You can
Just let
have
them have
stuff
it.
like this as long as there's a base understanding of what's happening. You don't have, to me, it doesn't have to, I would prefer it to make perfect sense if you really think about it and be plotted out in a way that makes sense. But the minimum for me is that I have to just understand what's happening and the consequences. So that's what I worry about with these things, that they're going to start getting so convoluted. I'm like, well, wait a minute. What about,
Well,
if Loki doesn't get disappears from that timeline, then he doesn't go back and betray his father and everyone on Asgard. Asgard ends up doesn't get destroyed because his father's still alive. That girl doesn't show up or get.
what are you talking about?
released
The
from
Loki in
prison.
this show? The Loki in
Yeah.
this show is he is an
Well,
orphan now.
The point is,
timeline he
they've
came
already
from
restored that timeline.
done.
It's already happening. That's why he can't
That's
never
why-
go back there. He is
Yeah, he says,
like,
I can't go-
Andrew
so
said, he's orphaned. He has
He's
nowhere
either
to
gonna
go.
die or help them
So
out.
what happens
Those
to
are his
the
two
Loki
choices.
in that timeline? He just doesn't disappear. He gets he's still standing there.
well,
Yeah,
The moment
they
they
just restore
they're
it,
saying,
and that
again,
stuff never happens. That
The
deviation.
moment Loki made that decision, the timeline branched, and the one that branched they just took away, and the one that exists still is Loki that didn't make that decision. Bye.
Does it matter?